Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main view screen. She had worked hard to get here. At 28, she was one of the youngest commanders in the United Earth Fleet. Her record was perfect. Every mission successful. Every strategy brilliant. Her crew respected her, and her captain trusted her completely. Captain Derek Johnson walked over to her station. Lisa will reach the Zephyrian homeworld in 6 hours. Are you ready for the big meeting? Lisa nodded. The diplomatic summit was huge for humanity. The Zephyrians were the first alien race to offer friendship to Earth. They were advanced, peaceful, and willing to share technology. This meeting could change everything for the human race. I've reviewed all the security protocols, sir. Everything looks good, Lisa said, but something bothered her. For weeks, she had noticed strange things. Communication delays, missing reports, small details that didn't add up. Being a tactical officer, Lisa noticed patterns, and the pattern she saw worried her. 3 human colonies had been attacked by the Krillian Dominion in the past month. The attacks were too precise, too well planned. Someone had given the enemy information about human defenses, someone on the inside. Lisa had spent days going through classified files. She found communication logs that shouldn't exist, money transfers to hidden accounts, meeting records that had been deleted but not completely erased. All the evidence pointed to one person, Admiral Frank Morrison, the man in charge of this entire diplomatic mission. Morrison was a hero to most people. He had served Earth for 30 years. He had medals and honors. He commanded respect from every officer in the fleet. But Lisa had found proof that he was selling human secrets to unknown buyers. She tried to report her findings through proper channels. She sent encrypted messages to Earth Command. She requested meetings with senior officers. But each time her messages were delayed or lost. Her meeting requests were denied. It became clear that Morrison's corruption went deep. Other officers were involved. Colonel Patricia Bell, who handled communications. General Kevin Wright, who managed intelligence. They were all part of it. Lisa knew she was in danger. But she also knew she had to do something. Human lives were at stake. The diplomatic summit was the perfect cover for Morrison to sell more secrets. She had to stop him. The day of the summit arrived. The Zephyrian homeworld was beautiful. Crystal cities reached toward purple skies. The aliens themselves were tall and graceful, with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. Their leader, Ambassador Veltar, greeted the human delegation with careful politeness. Lisa attended the opening ceremony in her dress uniform. Hundreds of beings filled the Great Hall. Humans, Zephyrians, and representatives from other allied races. The atmosphere was hopeful. This was supposed to be a day of celebration. Admiral Morrison gave a speech about friendship between the races. He talked about trust and cooperation. Lisa felt sick listening to him. This man had betrayed everything he claimed to stand for. During a break in the ceremonies, Lisa made her move. She approached Captain Johnson privately. "Sir, I need to speak with you urgently. It's about Admiral Morrison." Johnson looked surprised. "What about the Admiral?" "I have evidence that he's been selling military secrets. The Krillian attacks on our colonies weren't random. Someone gave them our defense plans." Johnson's face went pale. "Lisa, that's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" Lisa pulled out a data pad. Communication logs, financial records, deleted files. "It's all here." Johnson started to look at the data, but before he could read much, Admiral Morrison appeared behind them. "Commander Martinez, Captain Johnson. Is there a problem?" Lisa's heart raced, but she stood straight. "Admiral, I need to report a security breach. I have evidence of—" Morrison's hand moved fast. He grabbed the data pad from Lisa's hands and crushed it. "Commander Martinez, you are under arrest for treason." The words hit Lisa like a physical blow. "Sir, security!" Morrison shouted. Armed soldiers appeared from nowhere. "Commander Martinez has been selling military secrets to the Krillian Dominion. She is responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent civilians." Lisa couldn't believe what was happening. "That's not true." "Sir, you know that's not true." But Morrison had more evidence ready. False communication logs showing Lisa contacting Krillian agents. Fake financial records showing payments to her accounts. Manufactured proof that made her look guilty of everything Morrison had actually done. The arrest happened in front of everyone. Humans, Zephyrians, and other alien dignitaries watched as Lisa was accused of the worst crime possible, treason against her own species. Ambassador Veltar stepped forward. His large eyes studied the scene carefully. "Admiral Morrison, this is most unusual. Perhaps this matter should be handled privately?" "No," Morrison said firmly. "This traitor must face justice publicly. Let everyone see what happens to those who betray humanity." Lisa was stripped of her rank in front of the entire assembly. Her medals were torn from her uniform. Her command codes were deleted. Her name was removed from the ship's roster. She went from Commander Martinez to prisoner in minutes. Captain Johnson stood frozen. Lieutenant Jake Sullivan, her closest friend, looked shocked and confused. Her entire crew watched in silence as she was chained and led away. Some looked sad. Others looked angry. But none of them spoke up for her. The Zephyrian ambassador followed the group with his eyes. Lisa could see that he suspected something was wrong, but he couldn't interfere without causing problems between the races. The diplomatic mission was too important. As Lisa was dragged toward the prisoner transport ship, she managed to send one final message through her personal communicator before it was taken away. "The truth will surface, and when it does, you'll understand what you've lost." The transport ship UES Wanderer was commanded by Captain Ron Hayes. He was a cruel man who enjoyed having power over others. He made sure Lisa knew that her fall from grace amused him. "From hero to traitor in one day," he laughed. "Must be some kind of record." Lisa said nothing. She sat in her cell and thought about what had happened. Morrison had planned everything perfectly. He had turned her own evidence against her. He had made her look guilty of his crimes. And he had done it all in front of witnesses who would spread the story across the galaxy. But Lisa wasn't broken. She was angry, and she was determined to survive long enough to prove the truth. She didn't know how, but somehow she would find a way to clear her name and expose Morrison's betrayal. The transport ship left the Zephyrian homeworld and headed toward the prison colonies on the edge of human space. Lisa watched the stars pass by her small window and made a promise to herself. This wasn't over, not by a long way. The alarm started screaming 3 days into the journey. Lisa woke up in her cell as red lights flashed and the ship shook violently. She could hear explosions and the sound of metal tearing apart. "All prisoners remain in your cells." Captain Hayes' voice came over the speakers. "We are under attack by Krillian forces." Lisa pressed her face to the small window in her cell door. She could see other prisoners doing the same thing. Most of them looked terrified. They had good reason to be scared. The Krillians didn't take prisoners often. When they did, those prisoners were never seen again. More explosions rocked the ship. The lights went out for a few seconds, then came back on dimmer than before. Lisa could tell the ship was badly damaged. The engines were making strange noises. The air recycling system was struggling. Through the ship's communication system, she heard Captain Hayes giving orders to his crew. "Abandon the forward sections. Seal off the prisoner compartments. All crew to the escape pods." Lisa felt cold anger fill her chest. Hayes was going to leave them all to die. He was sealing them in so the Krillians would find only dead prisoners when they boarded the ship. But Lisa wasn't just any prisoner. She was a trained tactical officer. She knew ships inside and out. And she wasn't going to die quietly. "Listen to me," she shouted to the other prisoners. "Hayes is abandoning us. We need to get out of these cells and organize a defense." A man in the cell next to her laughed bitterly. "With what? Our bare hands?" Lisa studied the locking mechanism on her cell door. It was electronic, controlled by the ship's computer, but the explosions had damaged the ship's systems. She could see sparks coming from the control panel. "The lock system is failing," she called out. "When I count to 3, everyone push on your doors at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The combined pressure from dozens of prisoners pushing at once overloaded the damaged system. The cell doors popped open with loud clicks. Lisa was the first one out. "We need to get to the armory," she told the others. "And we need to find medical supplies for the wounded." Some of the prisoners just wanted to find escape pods. Others wanted to hide, but about 20 of them followed Lisa as she led them through the damaged ship. She moved with confidence, knowing exactly where to go. The armory was locked, but Lisa knew how to override the security. Soon they had basic weapons and body armor. It wasn't much against Krillian technology, but it was better than nothing. Lisa organized the prisoners into teams. One group worked on treating the wounded. Another group tried to repair the ship's failing systems. A third group set up defensive positions. "Why are you helping us?" asked a woman named Carol. "You're supposed to be a traitor." Lisa kept working on the ship's computer system as she answered. "Because I'm not a traitor, and because no one deserves to die like this." The sound of cutting torches came from the hull. The Krillians were boarding the ship. Lisa had heard stories about them. They were 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like armor. They were born warriors who respected only strength and cunning. Positions, Lisa called out. Remember, we're not trying to win. We just want to show them we won't go down without a fight. The Krillians broke through the hull in 3 places at once. They moved fast and efficiently, expecting no resistance. Instead, they found organized defensive positions and coordinated fire. Lisa had positioned her people cleverly. They couldn't stop the Krillians, but they could make the boarding action more difficult. Every meter of corridor had to be fought for. Every room had to be cleared carefully. The Krillian commander was a massive warrior with cybernetic implants covering half his face. Lisa could see him through the security cameras as he led his troops personally. He looked surprised by the resistance they were meeting. When the Krillians finally reached the prisoner bay, they expected to find cowering humans begging for mercy. Instead, they found Lisa calmly treating wounded prisoners with medical supplies she had salvaged from around the ship. The Krillian commander entered the bay with his weapon ready. He was even bigger up close, with scars covering his visible skin. His forearms moved independently as he surveyed the area. "I am War Commander Taknul," he said in heavily accented but clear English. "You are my prisoners." Lisa stood up slowly, keeping her hands visible. "I am Lisa Martinez, former commander of the United Earth Fleet." Taknul studied her carefully. "You organized this resistance?" "Yes. Why? Your ship was doomed. Your crew abandoned you. Why not surrender immediately?" Lisa met his gaze steadily. "Because that's not who I am." The war commander seemed amused by this answer. "You think your small defense impressed me?" "No," Lisa said. "But I think you made 3 tactical errors during your boarding action that cost you additional casualties." Taknul's 4 eyes narrowed. "Explain." Lisa pointed to the damaged areas around them. "You cut through the hull in 3 places, but you didn't coordinate your entry times. Your first team was exposed for 43 seconds while they waited for support. We could have killed them all if we had better weapons." The war commander listened as Lisa continued. "You also assumed the ship's internal sensors were down, so you didn't sweep for surveillance devices. We tracked your movements through the security system and prepared for each of your advances." "And the third error?" Taknul asked. "You led from the front, which shows courage but puts your command structure at risk. If we had been better armed, losing you would have disrupted your entire operation." The other Krillian warriors looked shocked that a human prisoner was criticizing their commander's tactics, but Taknul seemed thoughtful. "You speak like a warrior," he said finally, "but your people say you are a traitor to your own kind." "My people are wrong about many things," Lisa replied. During the journey to the Krillian homeworld, Lisa found herself in an unusual position. Instead of being thrown into the slave holds with the other prisoners, she was kept in a small but comfortable cabin. War Commander Taknul visited her regularly to discuss military tactics. The Krillians had problems that human thinking could solve. Their supply lines were inefficient. Their communication protocols were outdated. Their weapon systems needed modifications. Lisa found herself offering suggestions almost without thinking about it. "Why do you help us?" Taknul asked during one of their talks. "We are enemies of your people." Lisa considered the question carefully. "Because good tactics save lives on both sides. Quick, clean victories are better than long, bloody wars." The war commander's scarred face showed what might have been approval. "You think like a Krillian warrior. Honor in victory, mercy in strength." Word of the strange human prisoner spread through the Krillian fleet. Some officers thought Taknul was foolish to trust her. Others became curious about her unconventional ideas. The younger Krillian warriors especially seemed interested in her different approach to problem-solving. Lisa learned that the Krillians valued strength and cleverness above all else. They respected enemies who fought well. They despised weakness but honored courage. In their culture, being betrayed by your own people was seen as a mark of honor, not shame. As the fleet approached the Krillian homeworld of Kethvar, Lisa realized her life had changed completely. She was no longer a disgraced human officer. She was something new, a bridge between 2 very different ways of thinking about war and honor. But she also knew that the real test was coming. On Kethvar, she would face the Krillian High Command. They would decide if she lived or died, and they would judge her not as a human but as a warrior. The Krillian homeworld of Kethvar was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. Red mountains reached into an orange sky. Cities of black metal and crystal covered the landscape. The air was thin and hot, with a smell like burning copper. War Commander Thaknul led Lisa through the capital city toward the High Command building. Krillian civilians stopped to stare at the human walking freely among them. Most had never seen a human up close. Some hissed with anger. Others seemed curious. Do not show fear, Thaknul advised. Krillians respect courage above all else. Lisa kept her head high and her back straight. She had survived disgrace, imprisonment, and capture. She wasn't going to be intimidated now. The High Command building was enormous. Black stone walls rose hundreds of feet into the air. Carved warriors covered every surface, their forearms raised in eternal battle. Inside, the halls were filled with the greatest military minds of the Krillian Dominion. Supreme Commander Vexandra waited in the War Council chamber. She was ancient even by Krillian standards, with scars covering all four of her arms. Her cybernetic eye glowed red in the dim light. She had led the Krillian military for over 50 years. Thaknul, she said in a voice like grinding metal, you bring a human before the High Command. Explain this insult. Other council members growled their agreement. General Kexmon pointed one of his forearms at Lisa. This soft creature belongs in a slave camp, not in our sacred chamber. But Thaknul stood firm. Supreme Commander, this human has tactical abilities that could benefit the Dominion. She organized resistance aboard a disabled ship. She analyzed our boarding tactics and found flaws we had missed. Any warrior can find flaws after a battle, General Kexmon snarled. That proves nothing. Supreme Commander Vexandra studied Lisa with her natural eye and her cybernetic one. You claim to be a strategist, human. Prove it. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the human colony of New Providence, heavily fortified and surrounded by defensive satellites. The Krillians had been trying to capture it for 3 months without success. We have superior numbers and firepower, Vexandra explained. But every assault costs us too many warriors. The humans fight like cornered animals. How would you take this world? Lisa studied the tactical display carefully. She could see why the Krillians were having trouble. New Providence was perfectly positioned to defend against direct attacks. The human commanders had done excellent work, but Lisa also saw something the Krillians couldn't see. They were thinking like Krillians, honorable warriors who believed in facing their enemies directly. They couldn't imagine any other way to fight. You've been attacking their strengths, Lisa said finally. Stop doing that. General Kexmon laughed harshly. Explain yourself, human, Lisa pointed to the display. Every assault you've made has been direct and predictable. The humans know exactly how Krillians fight. They've prepared for your tactics. She manipulated the holographic controls showing new attack vectors. But they've also prepared based on human psychology. They expect you to act like humans would act. Use that against them. Lisa outlined a complex strategy. First, the Krillian fleet would appear to retreat after a failed assault. The human defenders would think they had won and would relax their guard. Some would even leave their fortifications to pursue what they thought was a beaten enemy. Then, while the humans were out of position, smaller Krillian forces would attack from unexpected directions. Not the obvious routes that warriors would choose, but the difficult paths that seemed impossible. The humans would be caught completely off guard. This plan requires deception, General Kexmon objected. Krillians do not retreat from battle. It's not retreat, Lisa explained. It's misdirection. You're using the enemy's expectations against them. That's not cowardice, it's intelligence. Supreme Commander Vexandra considered the plan in silence. Finally, she nodded slowly. We will test your strategy, human. If it succeeds, you will be rewarded. If it fails, you will die slowly. The attack on New Providence happened exactly as Lisa had planned. The Krillian fleet staged a convincing retreat after a fierce but unsuccessful assault. The human defenders celebrated their victory and began to redeploy their forces. 12 hours later, Krillian strike teams attacked from 6 different directions simultaneously. They used routes that no military planner would normally consider, through asteroid fields, across radiation zones, beneath the planet's magnetic field. The human defenders were completely unprepared. New Providence fell in less than a day. The Krillian casualties were minimal. The human colonists were captured rather than killed, because Lisa had insisted that unnecessary death would only make future operations more difficult. When the news reached Kethvar, Supreme Commander Vexandra summoned Lisa back to the War Council chamber. This time the other commanders looked at her with respect instead of contempt. "You have proven your worth," Vexandra declared. "You are hereby appointed strategic advisor to the High Command. You will hold the rank of war planner, with authority over tactical operations." It was an unprecedented honor. No non-Krillian had ever held military rank in the Dominion. Lisa found herself with her own office, her own staff, and access to the most classified military information. Over the following months, Lisa planned and led multiple successful campaigns against human colonies. Each victory showcased her deep understanding of human military doctrine and psychology. She knew how human commanders thought because she had been one of them. But success came with a terrible price. Every victory meant human deaths. Every captured colony meant human suffering. Lisa told herself that her quick, decisive victories actually saved lives compared to the long, bloody sieges the Krillians preferred. But she still struggled with guilt. Some nights she stood on her apartment balcony and looked up at the alien stars. She wondered if she had become the very thing her former colleagues had accused her of being, a traitor to her own species. During the day, though, she focused on her work. She found that her unique position allowed her to help captured humans. She negotiated better treatment for prisoners. She established protocols for handling civilian populations. She became a bridge between two species that had been at war for years. The younger Krillian officers especially valued her input. They were tired of the endless cycle of violence and saw her methods as a way to end conflicts quickly and efficiently. They called her the human who thinks like the enemy, which was meant as a compliment in their culture. War Commander Thaknol became her closest ally and friend. He had been the one to recognize her potential, and he took pride in her success. He also understood the emotional cost of her position. "You carry a heavy burden," he told her one evening as they reviewed intelligence reports. "Leading warriors against your own people cannot be easy." Lisa looked up from her work. "It's necessary. This war will end eventually. When it does, I want both sides to remember that enemies can become allies. Hatred doesn't have to be permanent." "You speak of peace," Thaknol observed. "Do you truly believe it's possible?" "I have to believe it," Lisa replied. "Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" Lisa's reputation continued to grow throughout the Krillian military. She was consulted on every major operation. Her tactical innovations were studied and copied. Some Krillian commanders began to incorporate human-style thinking into their own strategies, but with greater success came greater responsibility. Intelligence reports were showing that humanity was preparing for something big, a massive final assault that could determine the outcome of the entire war. And Lisa knew she would soon face the greatest test of her life. The intelligence reports were clear. Humanity was gathering its largest fleet ever assembled for one final desperate attack. Every available ship was being called back to Earth. Every reserve unit was being activated. They were planning to strike at the heart of the Krillian Dominion, the Meridian Gate. The Meridian Gate was a massive space station that controlled the most important jump point between human and Krillian space. Whoever controlled the gate controlled the flow of ships and supplies between the two regions. If humanity could capture or destroy it, they could cut off Krillian expansion into human territory. Lisa studied the human fleet composition in her office aboard the Krillian command ship. 300 vessels, nearly half of humanity's remaining military strength. It was a suicide mission disguised as a strategic operation. What made it worse was the familiar names on the command roster. Admiral Frank Morrison led the fleet aboard the UES Victory. Captain Derek Johnson commanded the 3rd Battle Group. Commander Jake Sullivan had been given his own ship, the UES Defender. All the people who had watched her disgrace were now sailing toward what they thought would be humanity's greatest victory. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. War Commander Thaknol entered her office carrying a data pad. "The Supreme Commander wants your tactical assessment. How should we deploy our forces to defend the gate?" Lisa looked up from her work. Her friend's scarred face showed concern. He knew the situation was difficult for her. "The human fleet is large but desperate," Lisa said carefully. "They're betting everything on this one attack. If they succeed, they can hold out for years. If they fail, humanity's military power will be broken. Then we must ensure they fail," Thaknol replied. "The High Command expects a crushing victory." Lisa nodded, but her mind was racing. She could design a battle plan that would destroy the human fleet completely. Her understanding of human tactics gave her an enormous advantage. She knew exactly how Admiral Morrison would deploy his forces, what formations he would use, where he would be weakest. But she also knew that many of the humans in that fleet were good people, officers like Derek Johnson and Jake Sullivan, who had simply been deceived by Morrison's lies. They didn't deserve to die for the Admiral's corruption. Over the next week, Lisa worked on the most complex tactical plan of her career. On the surface, it looked like a standard Krillian defense of the Meridian Gate. Multiple battle groups positioned to intercept the human attack from several directions. Overwhelming firepower concentrated at key points. But beneath the obvious strategy was a more subtle plan. Lisa designed the battle to minimize casualties on both sides while still achieving Krillian objectives. She created opportunities for the human fleet to retreat with honor intact. She positioned Krillian forces to disable human ships rather than destroy them. The key was timing. Everything had to happen exactly as she predicted, or the plan would collapse into the kind of bloody massacre that both sides wanted to avoid. Supreme Commander Vexiandra reviewed the plan in the War Council chamber. "This strategy is conservative," she observed. "You could destroy the human fleet completely with a more aggressive approach." "Yes," Lisa agreed. "But complete destruction isn't always the best victory. A defeated enemy who survives can become an ally. A destroyed enemy can only become a memory." General Kexmon disagreed. "These humans have cost us many warriors. They deserve to be crushed completely." But Vexandra studied the tactical display more carefully. "The human understands something we do not. This battle will be remembered by both species. How we fight it will determine how they remember us." The Supreme Commander approved Lisa's plan with one modification. She gave Lisa command of the Krillian forces. It was another unprecedented honor. A human commanding Krillian warriors in battle against her own species. The ceremony took place before the entire Krillian fleet. Thousands of warriors gathered to witness Lisa receive the Mark of Threshak, the highest honor in Krillian society. It was given only to warriors who achieved victory through perfect understanding of their enemy. As Supreme Commander Vexandra placed the ceremonial marks on Lisa's uniform, she spoke in the ancient Krillian battle language. "You are Threshak human. Perfect enemy. You know your foe so well that victory becomes inevitable." The four-armed salute from thousands of Krillian warriors was both humbling and terrifying. Lisa had become one of the most powerful military leaders in the Dominion. She commanded her own battle group and had the respect of an entire warrior culture. But with that honor came an impossible burden. She was about to lead alien warriors against the people she had once sworn to protect. The Battle of the Meridian Gate began exactly as Lisa had predicted. Admiral Morrison's fleet emerged from hyperspace in 3 separate groups, just as human tactical doctrine demanded. The formations were textbook perfect, and exactly what Lisa had planned for. From the bridge of her Krillian flagship, Lisa watched the human ships deploy. She could see the UES Victory leading the main attack group. The UES Defender was part of the flanking force. All her former colleagues were exactly where she expected them to be. "All battle groups execute pattern Threshak," she ordered in Krillian. The Krillian fleet moved with deadly precision. They had practiced this maneuver dozens of times. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. The human fleet found itself facing attacks from 6 different directions. But instead of the overwhelming assault they expected, they met carefully controlled pressure designed to force specific responses. Admiral Morrison tried every tactical trick he knew. He split his forces to counter multiple threats. He concentrated his firepower on what seemed like weak points in the Krillian formation. He even attempted a desperate charge directly at the gate itself. Every move he made played into Lisa's plan. She knew Morrison's tactics because she had studied them for years. She knew his weaknesses because she had once considered him a hero. She knew his desperation because she understood what this battle meant to humanity. The turning point came when Lisa's forces managed to isolate Admiral Morrison's flagship. The UES Victory found itself cut off from the rest of the fleet, surrounded by Krillian ships but not yet destroyed. Commander Jake Sullivan, aboard the UES Defender, attempted a rescue operation. His ship charged toward the trapped flagship, broadcasting on all frequencies that he was coming to help his admiral. Lisa watched Jake's ship approach and felt a pain in her chest. He was still the same brave, loyal officer she had once called her best friend, but his loyalty was to a man who had betrayed everything they both believed in. "Target the human rescue ship," ordered General Kexmon, who was observing the battle from Lisa's bridge. "Destroy it before it can interfere." "No," Lisa said quietly. "Target their engines only. Disable, don't destroy." The Krillian weapons were precise. Jake's ship was stopped but not eliminated. His crew was alive but helpless. Within 6 hours, the entire human fleet was defeated. Some ships had been destroyed, but most were simply disabled or forced to retreat. Admiral Morrison himself was captured when his flagship systems failed. The Krillians had achieved complete victory with minimal losses. The Meridian Gate remained under their control. Humanity's last great offensive had failed, but as Lisa stood on her bridge looking at the damaged human ships, she felt no satisfaction. She had saved lives on both sides, but she had also helped defeat her own people. The weight of that knowledge was almost unbearable. War Commander Thaknul approached her station. "You have achieved perfect victory, Thrashak human. The High Command will celebrate this day for generations." Lisa nodded, but she didn't feel like celebrating. Through her ship's sensors, she could see the UES Defender floating dead in space. Somewhere aboard that ship, Jake Sullivan was probably wondering how the Krillians had outmaneuvered them so completely. She hoped that someday she would be able to explain. But for now, she had to live with the knowledge that she had become exactly what Admiral Morrison had falsely accused her of, being a human who fought against her own species. The only question now was whether that sacrifice would ultimately serve a greater purpose. News of the Battle of the Meridian Gate spread through human space like wildfire. The woman they had branded a traitor had led enemy forces to victory against humanity's greatest fleet. Admiral Morrison, now a prisoner of the Krillians, used his captivity to spread propaganda about Lisa's betrayal. "She proves that humans cannot be trusted," Morrison declared in broadcasts from his prison cell. "She has become our greatest enemy. The war must continue until she and all who follow her path are destroyed." But Lisa had not been idle during the months since her victory. Her position within the Krillian hierarchy had given her access to intelligence that changed everything. She had discovered a faction within the Dominion that wanted peace with humanity. War Commander Thaknul led this faction. Many younger Krillian officers supported him. They were tired of endless war and saw Lisa's methods as proof that the two species could understand each other. "Continued conflict will destroy both our peoples," Thaknul explained during a secret meeting in Lisa's quarters. "We have the strength to win, but victory will cost us everything we value. There must be another way." Lisa had been thinking the same thing. The war started because of misunderstanding and fear. It continues because of pride and hatred, but it could end if someone was willing to take the first step toward peace. "You have an idea?" Thaknul observed. Lisa pulled up star charts on her personal computer. "I want to return to human space under a flag of truce. I'll carry evidence of Admiral Morrison's original corruption and formal peace terms from your faction. If I can expose the truth about my disgrace and present a real opportunity for peace, maybe I can prevent the final devastation both sides are planning." The idea was dangerous beyond measure. Many Krillians would see it as betrayal. Many humans would see it as a trick. But it was the only chance to end the war before it consumed everything. Supreme Commander Vexandra was surprisingly supportive when Lisa presented the plan to the High Command. "You have served the Dominion with honor, Threshak human. If you believe peace is possible, we will support your attempt." General Kexman disagreed strongly. "This human has served us well, but she is still human. How do we know she will not betray us when she returns to her own people? Because she has already chosen between her species and her honor," Vexandra replied. "She chose honor. That choice will not change." Lisa was given command of a single Krillian cruiser and a small crew of volunteers. The ship would fly under a flag of truce, broadcasting continuously that Lisa Martinez, strategic advisor to the Krillian High Command, was returning to human space as a peace envoy. The journey through human territory created panic and confusion. Colonial defense forces scrambled to intercept the Krillian ship, but the truce broadcast made them hesitate. No one knew how to respond to an enemy commander requesting diplomatic immunity. When Lisa's ship reached the neutral station of Port Freedom, she was met by a human delegation that included familiar faces. Captain Derek Johnson was there, now promoted to admiral. Commander Jake Sullivan stood beside him, his uniform showing the scars of his recent capture and exchange. The reunion was painful for everyone involved. Johnson and Jake stared at their former colleague in shock. Lisa wore Krillian honor marks and commanded alien warriors who obviously respected her. She looked different, harder, more confident, but also sadder. "Lisa," Jake said quietly. "Is it really you?" "It's me, Jake. I know this is difficult to understand." Admiral Johnson stepped forward. "Commander Martinez, or should I say War Planner Martinez, you've requested this meeting under a flag of truce. What do you want?" Lisa activated a portable holographic projector. "I want to show you the truth about what happened on the Zephyrian homeworld, and I want to offer humanity a chance for real peace." The evidence Lisa presented was overwhelming. Years of collected intelligence showed Admiral Morrison's corruption in detail. Communication logs with unknown buyers, financial records showing payments for military secrets, meeting transcripts that proved his involvement in the attacks on human colonies. "This is impossible," Admiral Johnson said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Admiral Morrison is a hero. He's dedicated his life to protecting humanity." "He's dedicated his life to protecting himself," Lisa replied. "He used my investigation of his crimes to frame me for treason. He turned the evidence I collected against him and made it look like evidence against me." Jake studied the data carefully. As a tactical officer, he knew how to analyze intelligence reports. The pattern was clear and damning. "Derek, this is real. Morrison really did betray us." "Even if that's true," Johnson said, "it doesn't change what you've done since then. You've led enemy forces against human colonies. You've killed human soldiers." Lisa felt the weight of those accusations. "Yes, I have. And I'll carry that burden for the rest of my life. But I've also saved more lives than I've taken. My methods have ended conflicts quickly instead of letting them drag on for years." She activated another part of her presentation. "More importantly, I've learned that this war can end. There are Krillians who want peace. They're willing to negotiate if humanity is willing to listen." The peace terms Lisa presented were surprisingly generous. The Krillians would withdraw from captured human colonies in exchange for trade agreements and shared technology. Both sides would establish neutral zones to prevent future conflicts. Most importantly, there would be prisoner exchanges and reparations for war damages. "Why should we trust them?" Johnson asked. "Why should we trust you?" Before Lisa could answer, alarms started sounding throughout the station. A massive human fleet was approaching. Admiral Morrison's supporters had come to destroy the peace negotiations. "They're not here to negotiate," Jake observed, reading his tactical displays. "They're here to capture or kill you, Lisa." Lisa looked at her former friends and made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She removed the Krillian honor marks from her uniform and handed them to Jake. "I renounce my rank in the Krillian Dominion," she announced. "I break the mark of Threshak to demonstrate my commitment to peace between our peoples." The gesture shocked the Krillian warriors who had accompanied her. In their culture, breaking sacred honors was the ultimate sacrifice. It meant giving up everything you had earned for a principle greater than personal glory. Jake stared at the alien decorations in his hands. "Lisa, what are you doing?" "I'm choosing to trust you," she replied. "Both of you. I'm betting that you care more about ending this war than about punishing me for surviving it." The approaching fleet was led by Admiral Morrison's second-in-command, Admiral Patricia Bell. She had been part of Morrison's corruption from the beginning, and she knew that peace negotiations would expose her crimes. "This is Admiral Bell to Port Freedom Station," came the broadcast. "Surrender the traitor Lisa Martinez immediately, or we will consider you an enemy target." Admiral Johnson looked at Lisa, then at Jake, then at the Krillian honor marks Jake was holding. Finally, he made his choice. "This is Admiral Johnson to Admiral Bell. Port Freedom Station is under diplomatic protection. Any attack on this facility will be considered an act of war against the Neutral Zones Treaty." "You're protecting a traitor, Johnson." "I'm protecting a peace envoy," Johnson replied firmly. "And if you want to start a civil war over it, that's your choice." The standoff lasted for hours. Admiral Bell's fleet surrounded the station, but she didn't dare fire on a facility protected by neutral zone agreements. Meanwhile, Jake and Johnson worked with Lisa to refine the peace terms and prepare for formal negotiations. The breakthrough came when Lisa's evidence about Admiral Morrison was broadcast throughout both fleets. Human officers who had trusted Morrison for years saw proof of his betrayal. Some of Bell's ships actually switched sides, refusing to follow orders from commanders they now knew were corrupt. Admiral Bell was forced to withdraw. her authority undermined by the revelations about Morrison's conspiracy. The peace negotiations could continue. The final treaty was signed 3 months later in the same diplomatic chamber where Lisa had been disgraced years earlier. Representatives from humanity, the Krillian Dominion, and several neutral species witnessed the end of the bloodiest war in galactic history. Lisa stood in the center of the chamber wearing simple civilian clothes. She held no rank from either side, but she commanded the respect of beings from across the galaxy. When the ceremony was complete, Jake Sullivan approached her. "Welcome home, Commander," he said quietly. Lisa smiled, feeling truly at peace for the first time in years. "I never left, Jake. I just took the long way back." As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Lisa remained behind for a moment. She looked around the room where she had lost everything and then, years later, helped save everything. The journey had been painful beyond description, but it had led to something better than anyone had imagined. War Commander Thaknul, now serving as the Krillian ambassador to Earth, joined her in the empty chamber. "Do you regret the path you chose?" he asked. Lisa considered the question carefully. "I regret the pain it caused. I regret the lives that were lost. But I don't regret fighting for something better than endless war." "Then you have earned the greatest honor of all," Thaknul replied. "The honor of being remembered as a peacemaker."